Everyone in town feared the brutal guard dog that never let anyone near its silent owner. But when a homeless girl walked up and whispered a single forgotten word, the raging beast froze, then gently bowed its head. In that instant, the monster became her protector, and the truth about the man and his dog was revealed. I once watched an entire neighborhood change because of a dog and a girl nobody noticed. It began on a cold morning behind the studio lots, where the city pretended not to see the tents lined up against the chain-link fence. The trailers and black SUVs came first, rolling in like quiet tanks. People from the homeless encampment watched from their makeshift doorways, half curious, half numb. They were used to shows being filmed nearby, to famous faces stepping out and disappearing again. But that day, all eyes locked on the massive black and tan dog pacing beside a man in a dark hoodie and worn boots, his head bowed as if he wanted to slip past without being recognized. The world knew his name. On that street, all anyone talked about was the dog. The animal looked carved from stone and thunder. Scars crossed his muzzle like faded lightning, and the muscles beneath his fur moved the way waves move before a storm hits shore. His teeth flashed whenever someone got too close to the fence, and his bark didn't sound like barking at all. It sounded like breaking. People said he was ex-military, a retired attack dog brought back for a stunt-filled movie. Others swore he had killed a man in another country and had to be kept on a short leash. Nobody knew the truth, but everyone agreed on one thing: stay away from Keanu Reeves' guard dog. Keanu tried to make himself small in that place. He wore no sunglasses, no flashy clothes, just the same black hoodie and frayed jeans, carrying his own backpack instead of letting an assistant do it. When the cameras weren't rolling, he walked along the edge of the encampment, eyes lowered, leaving takeaway boxes on overturned crates, slipping folded bills into cracked coffee cups when he thought no one was looking. But the dog, always tethered, always tense, destroyed the warmth of each gesture. Every time a hand reached out to say thank you, the dog's growl rolled through the air like thunder across metal roofs, and the hand pulled back in fear. To them, Keanu was kind but out of reach, and the dog was the wall that kept him that way. A few tents down the line lived a girl who didn't step back. Her name was Maya, 12 years old by birth certificate, at least 20 by the way she watched the world. Her jacket was 3 sizes too big, sleeves hanging past her fingers, and her sneakers whined with each step, but her eyes were steady and bright. She slept in a faded purple tent with her older brother when he managed to stay sober, and alone when he didn't. Her mother used to tell her, "You have a magnet heart, animals come to you first," back when they still had an apartment and a golden mutt who slept at Maya's feet every night. The mutt had been taken the day they were evicted. Her mother was taken a year later by an overdose. The magnet heart stayed. From the moment Maya saw the dog, she felt something twist and pull inside her chest. While others shifted away, she edged closer, staying behind broken pallets and stacked crates, watching the way his ears flicked toward every sound. She noticed things the rumors missed. The dog flinched at the scream of metal doors, at the snap of a clapperboard. His tail stayed low, not high and proud like a bully's. He wasn't looking for a fight, he was waiting for one to find him. One afternoon, a group of teenage boys from the next block came by, bored and hungry for attention. They started with quiet jokes, then louder ones, then a rock tossed at the dog's feet. The stone clinked off the asphalt. The dog exploded. Muscles bunched, eyes blazing, he hit the end of his leash so hard his collar whined under the strain. A roar ripped from his chest that froze the boys in place and sent a baby in the nearest tent into tears. People shouted, scrambling back. For a second, it looked like the metal stake in the ground might tear free. Then Keanu's voice cut through the panic, low and sharp, not angry, afraid. "Down, basta, Thor, basta." The last word wasn't English. It struck the air with a strange, old weight, and Maya saw the dog freeze mid-lunge as if someone had pressed a hidden switch. He stood there trembling, foam at the edge of his mouth, eyes wild, then slowly sank to his belly, head turned away from the boys. Keanu dropped to his knees beside him, one hand on the dog's shoulder, whispering words nobody could make out. The crew pulled the teens back, muttering about insurance and security. The story that spread around the encampment that night was simple. See that dog? Walk the other way. Maya didn't sleep. She lay in her tent listening to the distant hum of generators, replaying the way the dog's entire body had obeyed that one strange word. She knew animal training from her grandfather, who had raised shepherds in the countryside before his hands started shaking too badly to hold a leash. Dogs, he always said, understood more than people did. They remembered kindness like a smell that never washed off. The next morning, Keanu came by earlier than usual, hood up against the cold, a script rolled in his hand. The dog walked at his side, calm but alert, as the first pale light spilled over the tents. He placed 2 coffee cups and a paper bag on an old crate near Maya's tent, then turned away. The bag tipped, and the script slipped from under his arm, skidding across the dirt and stopping near Maya's feet. She hesitated only a second before stepping out. "Hey, you dropped this," she called, picking up the script, brushing dust from the cover. The dog snapped to attention so fast she almost felt the air move. His lips lifted, a warning rumble starting deep in his chest. Someone further down the row shouted her name in terror, but Maya stood her ground. Her knees shook under her jeans, her fingers steadied around the papers. Keanu spun, eyes wide, one hand up. "Don't move," he said, not unkind, just terrified. "Thor, easy, sit." The dog ignored the familiar command, gaze locked on Maya, body coiled like a spring. A low, almost pleading sound came from his throat, something between a growl and a whine. Maya swallowed. "It's okay," she said softly, more to the dog than to the man. "I'm not gonna take your guy." For a flicker of a second, the dog's ears twitched at the sound of her voice. Keanu saw it too. His expression shifted, surprise cutting through his fear. He stepped between them in one smooth motion, hand hovering near the dog's collar. "You've got guts, kid," he murmured, "but he's complicated." "I used to help my grandpa with shepherds," Maya replied, lifting the script just a bit to show her empty other hand. "They're not born bad, people teach them what to be scared of." The words hung there, heavier than they should have been. Keanu's jaw worked for a second, like he was biting back something he didn't want to say. Then he exhaled. "He's seen things nobody should see," he said quietly. "We're working on it, but until then, keep a safe distance, okay? I'd never forgive myself if he hurt you." He stepped closer, took the script, then hesitated. From the paper bag, he handed her one of the coffees and a wrapped breakfast sandwich, fingers gentle, eyes steady on hers as if he was checking whether it was all right to offer. "For you," he said, "no strings and thanks for the script." Most people would have grabbed the food and run. Maya's pride pushed up against her hunger like 2 fists meeting in the middle of her chest, but something about the tired honesty in his face softened the fight. She nodded, accepting the warmth into her freezing hands. As he turned away with the dog, she asked, almost on instinct, "What did you say to him yesterday, when he stopped like that?" Keanu paused. The dog glanced back at her, eyes dark and shiny. "It's just a word he remembers from before," Keanu answered. "From a place that hurt him. It calms him down because it tells him the pain is over. At least that's what I hope it tells him." He gave her a small, crooked smile, then walked off toward the set, the dog pacing beside him, tension never fully leaving his shoulders. That night the sky cracked open. Rain hammered the tarps, turning the dirt to slick rivers between the tents. People cursed and laughed and scrambled to catch the leaks in plastic bowls. Somewhere near the fence, a bottle broke, voices rose, then stumbled away into the dark. Maya sat inside her tent, hugging her knees, feeling the cold creep up through the thin ground sheet. Her brother was gone again, promising to bring back money and returning only in her worries. Through the curtain of rain, she heard shouting from the far end of the camp, then the unmistakable roar of the dog. Not the warning from before. This was pure panic, shredded and raw. She shoved open the flap and saw chaos at the fence line. The storm had loosened the stake that held the dog's heavy leash. A delivery truck backing up too fast had clipped it, yanking it free. Now Thor was loose, wild eyes reflecting the security lights, barking at shadows and people and the thunder that shook the sky itself. Crew members yelled, slipping in the mud as they tried to form a circle around him without getting too close. Someone screamed that he'd bite. Someone else shouted to call animal control. In the middle of it all, Keanu stood with empty hands and a look Maya had never seen on any adult before, pure helplessness. He called the dog again and again, his voice hoarse, but Thor's mind was gone, lost in some old battlefield no one else could see. Every crash of thunder sent him spinning, jaws snapping at ghosts. A little boy from the tents, chasing a rolling can, slipped too far into the open space. The dog lunged in his direction, more fear than rage, splashing mud in all directions. The child froze, eyes wide, too stunned to run. People screamed his name, rooted in place by terror. Maya's body moved before her brain did. Her magnet heart pulled her straight into the storm. She waded through the mud, past trembling hands that tried to grab her sleeve, and stepped between the boy and the dog. Thor skidded to a halt a few feet away, rain streaming off his fur, chest heaving. His growl vibrated through the ground under her shoes. Keanu's voice sliced through the downpour. "Maya, do get back." She heard him, but another voice was louder, her grandfather, somewhere deep in her memory, teaching her how to hold her ground when a frightened animal tested her courage. She raised her hands slowly, palms open, tears mixing with rain on her cheeks. "It's okay," she whispered, more to herself than to the dog. "You're not there anymore, you're here." And then she remembered the strange word Keanu had used, the one that had pulled Thor back from the edge before. Carefully, like carrying a match through the wind, she stepped closer to the roaring animal, leaned toward his shaking ear, closed her eyes against the fear clawing through her ribs, and whispered a single word. The word left Maya's mouth like a breath she had been holding her whole life. For a heartbeat, nothing changed. Rain hammered the asphalt. Thunder rolled over the highway. The dog's growl shook in his chest like an engine about to explode. Then the sound cracked. His eyes snapped to hers as if he finally heard something through all the noise. Muscles that had been ready to spring suddenly shivered, confused. The boy behind her whimpered. Everyone around them held their breath, too scared to move, too scared to look away. Thor's mind went somewhere else. In the wet shine of his eyes, another storm flashed. Dust instead of rain, fire instead of lightning, a man in a desert uniform shouting the same word with smoke in his lungs. Basta. Enough. Enough shooting, enough screaming, enough running through broken buildings. Hands had held his collar then, the way Keanu's hands did now. But that man never came back from the last mission. Thor had waited for him until his paws bled against the kennel floor. The word had disappeared with the man. Until now, soaked and shaking, this small girl with torn sneakers stood before him and gave it back. A long, strangled whine pulled out of Thor's throat. His front legs folded first, then his back legs like someone had gently cut his strings. He sank into the mud, chest heaving, head lowered. The growl died out to a thin, broken sound. Rain pooled in the prince's paws had carved into the ground. Maya watched, heart slamming against her ribs, not sure if she should run or kneel or pray. She kept her hands up, fingers spread, voice low and steady in a body that wanted to shake itself apart. "It's okay," she whispered again, this time with more courage. "Basta, no more." The little boy scrambled away on his hands and knees, arms scooped up by a woman who had finally found the strength to move. Crew members shouted for blankets, for animal control, for someone to get that kid away. Phones were out everywhere now, tiny squares of light recording rain and fear, and a famous man racing toward a dog on his belly in the mud. Keanu dropped to his knees beside Thor, not caring that water splashed up onto his clothes, one hand on the dog's neck, the other held out to Maya like a warning and an apology tangled together. "Stay right there," he said softly. "You did great, just don't come closer yet." Thor's body trembled under his touch, but the rage was gone. His eyes, still locked on Maya, were wide and searching, like he was trying to place her in a memory that hurt and healed at the same time. She could have stepped back then, could have slipped into the shadows and let the adults take over, but her feet stayed planted. Something deeper than fear rooted her in place. No one had looked at her like that, like she mattered, like she was the center of someone's whole world in a very long time. Security finally managed to loop a second leash over Thor's shoulders, careful and slow. They clipped him to a heavier anchor, double-knotted it, checked it 3 times. The chaos began to drain from the air, leaving a tired, buzzing silence. People started talking again all at once, their voices jumping from panic to gossip. "Did you see that? The dog almost." The girl just said one word and he dropped. The story was already growing legs, already running ahead of the truth. Keanu stood up, rain dripping from his hair, his face pale beneath his stubble. He stepped toward Maya like someone crossing thin ice. Up close, he looked less like an untouchable movie hero and more like a man who hadn't slept in a week. His lips parted, closed, then finally found the right shape for gratitude. "You saved that kid," he said, eyes holding hers. "And maybe you saved Thor too." Maya shrugged, heat blooming in her cheeks despite the cold. "I just said what you said yesterday." "Yeah," he answered, a crooked, stunned smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. "But he listened to you." Behind him, one of the producers stomped over in an expensive raincoat, face twisted with the kind of anger that grows out of fear and paperwork. "This is insane, Keanu. That dog is a liability. The studio's already nervous. Now we've got footage of him going berserk in a homeless camp. Insurance is going to lose its mind. We need him off set until we sort this out. Maybe for good." The words hit harder than the rain. For a second, Keanu's shoulders sagged, a tiny collapse he tried to hide. His hand found Thor's collar again, fingers digging into the wet fur as if anchoring both of them. The dog pressed closer, still staring at Maya with that strange, aching focus. Almost as if, in his storm-soaked mind, he had chosen her as his new safe place. "Let me talk to them," Keanu said, voice low but firm. "It's my contract, my dog, we can fix this." The producer shook his head. "You've got one day. Tomorrow the reps fly in. If they say he's out, he's out. And if he's classified as dangerous after this..." He didn't finish the sentence, but the words hung there anyway. Everyone knew what dangerous could mean for a dog with teeth like Thor's. The producer walked off, already on his phone, already rewriting the next chapter of the movie without the dog. The crew drifted away, murmuring, glancing back at Maya as if she had stepped out of a different kind of script. The storm began to ease, but the damage had been done. Puddles shimmered under the security lights, reflecting a man, a dog, and a girl who suddenly felt the full weight of what she had stepped into. Keanu turned back to her, eyes serious now, the easy smile gone. "Come by the fence tomorrow," he said quietly, as if sharing a secret. "Early, before they get here, there's something I need to ask you, and it might change everything for him." Maya watched him walk away with Thor, the dog glancing over his shoulder at her with every few steps, as if making sure she was still there. Her heart beat a stubborn rhythm against the cold. Basta, basta, enough of losing everything. She didn't know it yet, but that single word had just pulled 3 broken lives onto the same path, and tomorrow morning, when the sun rose over the tents and studio trailers, someone would have to decide whether Thor's story ended in a report or in a second chance.